Zenless Zone Zero. This is a game created by the Genshin and Honkai developers Hoyoverse and is a brand new IP that is not related to their previous titles. Zenless is a fast-paced action combat game based in the world of New Eridu, a city that mastered the technology to deal with hollows, which are an apocalyptic level disaster. I was lucky enough to get into the tuning test that they held over this previous weekend, and as someone who almost maxed out every character and logged over 20 plus hours in the game, I'd like to go over some of the highs and the lows that I was able to experience. Before we begin, please know that everything that I will be discussing and showing in this video is from the tuning test, which will probably be changed by release and even the next beta. So this is going to be a discussion to try and improve the game's features. First up, gameplay itself. Once we are set free from the tutorial, we are greeted with this array of TV screens that the player can navigate through to enter battles. Once in a battle, the gameplay here feels unbelievably smooth and responsive. You're even allowed to switch between your playable characters mid-animation as they will stay on the field to finish the attack, all while you have full control of the character you just swapped to. This allows for extremely satisfying and incredible team synergy. However, this does also make the gameplay extremely easy. The normal enemy's AI is non-responsive a lot of the time and won't fight back, and even if they did, your attacks would hit stun them to the point where they really wouldn't be able to do anything. This can easily be fixed by increasing the AI's levels to fight back, and also give the enemies a larger variety of attacks, while also making our attacks not hit stun them as much so they can fight back. I think it would even be interesting to see them implement enemies that can dodge just as we can and use a counterattack. The damage the enemy deals feels okay, but it can 100% be increased to make it scarier to get hit. I'm not saying I want the game to feel Dark Souls level hard, but as someone who plays a lot of roguelike and roguelite games, a huge part of these games is the fact that they are hard, and if you can't keep up or get a correct build on that run, then you're sent back to the beginning. This can't really happen when you clear the stages in 20 seconds with no damage dealt to your team. Now, as for during combat, each character has a normal attack string and sometimes even sub-attacks that can be used by holding attack or delaying the attack during the string. Each character also has a dodge and a skill, which can be held for a bigger effect when you have enough energy to do so. Their ultimates can be used when you have enough energy and have your combat rank, or the decibel system, high enough. Props to the dev team for honestly making each and every character feel extremely unique so far, while also making it feel like each faction was properly meant to be used together. One of the biggest compliments that I can give them here is the fact that every weapon that is heavy feels heavy. One of my biggest complaints with their other games is a lot of the times the characters swing around what appears to be really heavy weapons like they're paper. But here you can really feel the weight of each weapon and their attacks. Unfortunately though, after about 20 plus hours of gameplay, I was wishing the characters did have a little bit more to use, whether that be more auto attack strings that they could swap between, or even the ability to swap the skills, which according to the tutorial that appeared when we first entered the skill screen, could actually be a feature they wish to implement in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see. Your partners and check or change their skills? However, I absolutely advise them to do this, as this would allow for even better team synergy, as one character's second skill could work better with another character's base skill that they wouldn't have been able to normally. I would also like to see the UI in combat be refined, specifically for characters that have stacks that they can build up in their kit, like Miyabi, who can gain 3 stacks to use a powerful charged up attack. However, I did not see that they actually kept track of these stacks underneath the character's extremely small portraits. And they didn't even give this courtesy to all the characters. Ao Koku, for example, or who I call Ao, because honestly I don't know how to say her name, she also has a 3-stack system, but for her, they didn't keep track of this. You had to do it yourself. These issues can be fixed by increasing the size of the character portraits, and maybe moving the location of the stack tracker to be above the skills themselves. Here's a question for the players that actually played the test. Did you know that there was a rock, paper, scissors system in place like Honkai? Yeah, I did not either until I was filling out the survey where they mentioned it. There's actually 3 types of character damage: piercing, slashing, and striking damage. Unless I missed the tutorial prompt, they did not say this system existed, and the icon showing that you're on the correct type is a very small boost above the character's health. This system should definitely have been a bigger play, and pushed in front of the characters a lot more so that we could utilize it. Now let's move on to the roguelite aspects, including the TV array section of the gameplay. Welcome to the Hollow, where here we can explore, interact with events, gain buffs for combat called Ethereum, and even gain negative effects called Corruption. This is where you spend a large majority of your runs building up a set of Ethereum to make a build that synergizes with your team and other Ethereums. Every new tile stepped on causes you to gain pressure, and once you hit 90 pressure, you gain a random Corruption, which is a penalty towards the player to make gameplay more difficult. Personally, I actually really loved this TV array system and found myself exploring as much as I could before going into another battle to properly power my team and gain knowledge on the map layout. I do think that they need to make this a little bit more pleasant to the eyes though, as besides the icons on the TV, the screen itself is severely lacking in color, which is contradictory to other UI elements that they have. I have also seen a large majority of players give feedback saying that the time spent here severely outweighs the time we spend in battle, and that they need to rework the entire TV system to allow more gameplay. And while I do agree that we do spend a lot of time in the TV system, I do disagree that they need to rework it. While I do think that they could definitely decrease the load times in between the fights to put us in the fight a lot quicker, there are very few ways besides that to really integrate the TV system to cut down the time in between combat instances. This TV system really does allow them to tell more story with each commission that you go through, as they have you run into special events that correlate to the reason you entered the Hollow in the first place. A great example of this is the commission where we have to save a father and son who entered a Hollow and got lost. And the special thing with this Hollow was as we moved from tile to tile, it left behind multiple colors: yellow, blue, and red. Once we reached the father and son duo to rescue them, the tiles we left behind instantly turned into event tiles representing what color we left behind. Yellow turned into gear coins, blue turned into pressure relievers, and red tiles turned into combat instances. And as I've mentioned before, I have played a ton of roguelite games, and most will always have the exploration for buffs and supports integrated into the gameplay itself by roaming between rooms. A good example is Returnal, Binding of Isaac, and even the Elysian Realm mode in Honkai. This is where I see the TV array system as a breath of fresh air, because I can properly spend time exploring, solving puzzles, and gaining multiple buffs before re-entering the battle. I believe something that they could implement to help those that don't really like the TV array system as much is add a mode where you start off with combat, and once combat is complete, it allows you to choose from a set of Ethereum, then instantly put you back into another battle, and after a couple floors they could automatically give you a random Corruption, that way that system still stays in place. And this would be able to go for as long as the player could hold out. This mode, however, would not replace the main gameplay loop as it is now, and would probably give less rewards. They have intentionally made this array system a major part of the gameplay loop, and I don't see them removing it. However, if they implement the changes I mentioned, it could alleviate some of the concerns. Now, things I would love to see changed are significantly more detrimental Corruptions. The Corruptions are set to try and make the gameplay harder for the player, while also making them think about how they move around the array to not overload their pressure for the max Corruption debuff. My issue with the Corruptions is I have barely ever noticed the impact that they have while playing, because on average they're such minuscule penalties, I just kind of autopilot around them. Seeing the Corruptions tie into the Ethereum I think would be an extremely fun feature. An example would be a Corruption that gives a percentage attack loss based on the number of Ethereum you have, causing you to go out of your way to remove some Ethereums to gain that attack back until that specific Corruption is removed. There were a plethora of Ethereums, and again, I would like to see more Ethereums like this one, where I can get a whopping 50% attack buff, but only at the cost of taking 50% more damage. This Ethereum alone made the run where I got it so much fun, because I was so scared of getting hit for half my health, I was dodging like crazy. Alright, here we go. This is where we know if we're gonna make it or break it on this 50% more damage. As for more game modes they could add, they could have special commissions where you are always at max Corruption, or even a no-hit run, where you enter and stay at 1 HP the entire commission, but have insanely good rewards at the end for those that can complete it. And as for co-op, which I've seen a lot of people have questions about, personally I don't really think they're going to add any co-op, but I do actually have a few ideas on how they could implement it. The first and easiest option is to have a leaderboard system like they have in Honkai, where people can show off their highest score and who can be on top. The more fun options, however, are two different modes that I've thought up that are similar in concept but different in execution. The first of those being where two players start the exact same commission layout at the same time with a specific character, both set at the same stats. Then they race to see who can complete the commission the fastest for rewards. The second option is kind of a mix of the two that I mentioned before. It's a commission where everyone has the same starting character and stats, but this time you have a set amount of time in the commission, and you try to make it to the highest floor possible within that set time frame. Once the commission is completed, all Ethereums collected would be converted into additional points, while the amount of corruptions you have deducts the points. Players could also place bets with character mats or any other in-game resource, which is all collected into a reward pool, and at the end of the allotted time frame for each event, those rewards would be distributed among the player's score. The more you bet and the better you place, the better the rewards. The normal city exploration is fantastic. They did so many features correct here, from the NPCs having different actions depending on the day, different NPCs altogether, grabbing commissions from the NPCs, or even collecting more Ethereums from talking to the NPCs to use in the hollows, and even running the MC's video store as a way to passively gain the game's currency called Dinnies. This whole city exploration really reminded me of Persona 5, and I'm really excited to see what else they can do with it. I would love to see them add more ways to interact with the NPCs, as well as add new stores, new areas, and maybe even add a system where we can learn gossip from the customers at the video store and investigate to gain new missions. I actually found myself walking around this small, yet full of life city a lot more than I originally thought I would. One complaint I have of this city walk though is the fact that we can't sprint here. This caused it to be painfully slow to walk from one side to the other or even from store to store, and I often found myself using the fast travel system. Speaking of stores, let's talk about the Tipsy Muse. Disk drives. Well, here we are, artifacts. Did we really think we could get away from it this time? I don't even think I need to state my opinion on the artifact system, but stagger multiplier. Wow, okay. These are a lot of numbers. Oh no, chat! Don't tell me there's an artifact system! No! 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 Oh no! Did I just get penalized for leveling up? Obviously, yes. I no longer can get C tier. I can only get B and A tier. But do I need both 60 of this and 30 of... I do. To do a 10 roll now. Let me make it very clear that I do actually like the premise of an artifact system. I do think if done correctly, it can be very rewarding for players. The problem is they have not made it well in previous games. If they just added some way for us to re-roll substats or something to manipulate the stats in our favor a little bit more, then the artifact system would actually be fantastic. The disk drive system works somewhat differently from the normal artifact grind that we're used to, as instead of having certain like domains for a set of certain disk sets, you gain a currency from completing commissions that you can use to basically do a gacha roll and choose from a single pool or a 10 pool. If you level up the shop, you can unlock the ability to choose specific partitions, which basically means you can choose which disk slot you're actually rolling for. If you do this though, the cost of rolling doubles, which is absolutely insane to me. And you are still not guaranteed to get a disc from a specific set that you want. As for the discs themselves, there is a C, B, and A rank discs, with C only having a main stat and when leveled up gains 1 substat, to the A rank having 3 substats and leveled up to gain 4 substats. At first I liked this system, but grew increasingly frustrated with it over time, and if this system stays fundamentally the same by release, I would like to at least see some features added to choose specific sets to roll on and decrease the cost of rolling overall. Another thing I'm worried about is it does appear there is actually a chance to get 2 main stats on a disc. I'm not really sure if this is truly the case, but there are 2 slots here, and this would cause a much more tedious and perfectionist grind for characters when it comes to the chance of potentially having a crit damage and crit rate as a main stat together on a disc. Overall, I absolutely love Zenless Zone Zero, and this game has an ungodly amount of potential to become a fantastic game with fantastic concepts and some of the goddamn best music I've ever heard Hoyoverse create. I hope they consider everyone's feedback, and I am very excited to see what they can create and show us in the future for near betas and on full release. Is there anything you think they should add that I didn't mention? Have any critiques on the points I mentioned? Leave a comment down below and let's continue to discuss how we can make this game as feature-packed and user-friendly as it can possibly be. And with all that said, my name is Azrael Vanity, thank you for watching, I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next one.